Hi, Michelle Glass here, and welcome to our third episode in our Lecture 1 series. And our topic for this presentation is basically the scientific method. So what we are looking at here is helping us to understand what is actually science and what kind of problems science can solve. So science is really our attempt to understand the natural world. And as scientists, we're going to understand our natural world through collection of data and observations, and then try to, as objectively as possible, analyze that information, apply statistical analysis to really make sure that the things that we have observed and the data that we have collected can be, to some extent universally applied. When we are talking about scientists, the key thing to remember is that scientists are not like stodgy old, guys in lab coats only doing math on the board or whatever is your personal impression of scientists and why you're not excited about taking a science class. Scientists are curious. We are people who are constantly looking around us. I'm a biologist, so of course I'm interested in the living world. But whatever is your jam, whatever it is that you're interested in as a scientist, you're constantly looking at it and thinking about it, asking yourself, why is that happening? What is causing that? What does this mean? What can this tell me about such and such? So not only are scientists being curious about the natural world, but they're not just like, that's interesting. They're, that's interesting. I wonder why that is. And from there, scientists are going to come up with possible answers to that question they've asked. Well, maybe it's because blah, 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 right? And, the key thing here is it has to be something that's observable. And then as we get into trying to answer the question that we've asked about the natural world, it has to be a question that we can test. We have to be able to develop a series of possible answers that are testable. And the key thing with scientific knowledge is we can only gain knowledge about things that we can collect data on, things that we can observe, things that are testable. So yeah, that means that there are topics that scientists can't answer, and that's okay. A possible testable answer to your scientific question is called a hypothesis. From there, you're going to take your testable possible answers, your hypotheses, which would be the plural form of the word, and you're going to, because it was a testable hypothesis, you're going to be able to design and implement an experiment where you're going to collect data or you're going to collect observations, which can be a form of data collection. And once you have that data, you're going to analyze it. But I skipped ahead a little bit in my conversation, so let's go back and think about our experiments for just a little bit. Now, a good scientific experiment is controlled. And what this means is you're going to have a control group and an experimental group. So if you want to know if a particular medicine is helpful at preventing nausea, you need to have one group of subjects, of people taking the nausea medicine, and you need another group that is not taking that medicine. We typically call that a placebo when we're talking about drug testing. And this allows you then to compare, well, is the nausea medicine really the thing that's preventing those people from being nauseous, or is there maybe some other factor? So your control group is your group that's for comparison. It does not contain the variable that you're testing, while your experimental group does. So in my example, the control group would get the placebo, the sugar pill that doesn't have the medicine in it, and the experimental group would get the pill with the medicine, and then you would collect information about how nauseous the people felt, and then see if maybe just taking the sugar pill helped just as well as the nausea medicine, or maybe the nausea medicine really had an effect. And so this really helps you to do your data analysis, your statistical tests to see if there is a real difference between the two groups or if something else is going on here. Now, as part of our experiment, the final thing that you want to do is analyze that data and draw conclusions. So that's where you're doing your statistics, you're comparing your control group with your experimental group, and then you're saying, yeah, this nausea medicine is great, so we can go to market with this, and we have a good fix here, or maybe, just take a spoonful of sugar and you'll be fine, type of conclusion. So that's what we see happening here. Now, we like to present in Intro to Biology the scientific method as a very step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 sort of process. And, you should think about good scientists because you're constantly curious. You're all the time making observations. You're all the time coming up with possible hypotheses. And you're all the time, in the process of some sort of experimentation or data analysis. And so it's a very fluid sort of process. Remember then that good science starts with that curiosity. So there's something that you're interested in that you want to investigate further, and you investigate it by forming and testing those hypotheses. And the testing here means experimentation, controlled experimentation, good sample sizes, data collection, statistical analysis. From there, you don't want to just stop, because our goal as scientists, we know we're not the only ones curious. We know that our findings might, spark more curiosity, might spark more research, or we know that our findings might be important for our society at large. And so it's important for scientists to publish their research. And this is doing a couple things. Number one is kind of putting some quality control over this process, because in order to get that experiment and that data and that conclusion published, you're going to have a group of scientists who are familiar with this area of research looking to see, did you create a good experiment? Did you have good controls? Is your statistical analysis solid? And do your conclusions make sense? So it's providing some objectivity, some oversight to the process. And then if it is something that meets all those criteria, it's published, and now other scientists can read that, and they're going to become curious, and maybe they're going to think of something new to test. And so the body of knowledge of our natural world just grows and grows and grows. Is also from these published journal articles that information gets out to society. So this is how your medical doctors make changes to their drugs that they're prescribing, or make changes to the different tests that they run, and all of this sort of thing. Lots of societal benefits are coming out of this scientific research. And, this is going to just enhance that curiosity, because as we see things that are benefiting society, then scientists can think about, be curious about that. Like, what kind of things do we need in our society? How can we have societal fixes? And maybe perhaps we can bring non-scientists into this kind of web of curiosity and experimentation and all this. So this is what it means to be a scientist. From there, we see that in science, we develop what are called theories. And a theory is, the closest kind of thing that we would get to as a fact in science, but we're not going to use the word fact, because a theory is supported by data, but it's flexible. It's not just all the old information says this, so this has to be 100% true. No, we're including current research in with our theories. And so as you're doing current research, you're getting new data, you might find something that makes you want to kind of change your idea. So we will see that corrections are made to theories as new data, new evidence comes forward. Theories are broad explanations. They include lots of data. They are not proven facts. So you never say, this proves that. You want to say, this data supports. There is evidence to support. So we always think about our data as supporting our theories or supporting our conclusions, but never proving this to be true. So you want to make sure you're careful about that in your conversations. And again, the support is verifiable evidence. So again, once you get to that theory level, it's not one set of data, one person's analysis of that data. It's a bunch. It's all these curious scientists. It's lots of different angles, so many supported hypotheses, so much data supporting this, and all of the data just continues to support this particular idea. And that's what we think of as a scientific theory.